Now, I wanted to let my viewers know that Robin was an international student when he was taking classes at UCLA. For an international student, finding a job upon graduation can be very difficult since most US firms are unwilling to sponsor H-1 visas to allow international students to stay and work in the US upon graduation. So, can you share with my students who are international students, what are some tips to successfully recruit and get a full-time job offer in the US since you were able to successfully do this?
I would say for international students to stand out, first, you have to have a really, really good GPA. Second, make sure your major is a STEM related major because STEM majors allow you to have 3 years of OPT instead of 1 year, which is very important. Fortunately, biz econ, the econ at UCLA are considered STEM majors now. Um, Third, you have to be very involved in school, such as getting into the Student Accounting Society, applying for VITA, which stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, and get involved in business related fraternities. The fourth one would be apply to as many firms as you can, and hopefully at least one will give you an offer. The fifth one would be make sure you practice a lot of behavioral interview questions because the interview will be the last barrier for you to secure that job. So make sure you don't lose that chance. Um, the last one would be go to as many networking events as possible and really put yourself out there.
Those are great tips. And I like that you mentioned networking because I've had some students before who had great, high GPAs, did a lot of extracurricular activities, did the mock, did practice behavioral questions, did mock interviews. They did everything, but they forgot to go to the networking events, right? So the recruiters, the competition is fierce, right? There's so many applicants, and a recruiter really, at the end of the day, sometimes when it's a tough choice, you're going to be looking at the one who they are most familiar with. So it's really, really important that students attend as many networking events prior to applying and submitting their application to the firms. Now, my next question is this: let's say a student did everything that you just suggested, but they were still unfortunate enough not to land a job in the U.S. Okay, so let's say an international student fit into that situation. What are some options for them if they still wish to continue to stay in the United States?
That's a great question. My suggestion is that try to get close to your professors because many of them do have a lot of resources that might get you a job. If you are very unfortunate and didn't get any offers in the United States, you can apply to graduate schools, which will make you more competitive and try to find a job afterwards. You can also apply to firms in your home country just in case you don't get any offers in the United States. Personally, I applied to PwC China, which offered me a position that will allow me to work in both China and the United States. However, I did not take the offer because I was able to get a full-time job from EY. One tip that I want to mention is that once you have a job offer, make sure that you apply your OPT application as early as you can because the U.S. Immigration Department will for sure delay your OPT application. So definitely apply early.
I like what you mentioned about, let's just say if a person wasn't able to get a job in the US, that they actually apply for firms in their own country, especially like a big four firm, right? I think everyone knows that the big four have offices all over the world. So let's say if you were an international student and you were from France, right? Ideally, you get a job here, but if you were not successful, then you can apply for PwC, KPMG, right? Deloitte in France, right? In the Paris office, work there, and then someday hope to come back to the US. I knew of another former student. He didn't get a job in the US. So he went back to, I believe he was from Taiwan. He went back to Taiwan and worked for one of the big four firms there. Eventually, he came back to the US. So that is something that people should consider, right? If all else fails.
Right.
Um, So I have one last question for you. I always ask this to all my guests because I consider you all to be very successful individuals. Can you share with my viewers three tips for success in life?
I would say the three tips for me would be, the first tip would be passionate about what you do. Nothing motivates people more than the feeling of happiness. I truly believe that you will take the actions to be the best that you can be if you are happy and passionate at what you do. The second tip would be, don't let other people's opinion of you determine your direction. They don't know what's best for you. They don't know plans for you. Focus on yourself and your own goal, and constantly think about how you can reach your own goal. The last tip will be, surround yourself with like-minded people. If you want to be positive, you have to surround yourself with positive people. Find yourself mentors. People want to share and teach you lessons of life. They want to give you information, so ask them to teach you something, and step by step, you will eventually get to where you want to be.
Hey, well, Robben, those are great tips. And also, I want to thank you for taking the time to come to do this video with me today. It was a pleasure being your former professor at UCLA. And then it was obviously a pleasure working with you when you later became my teaching assistant. And I want to mention, I'm really thrilled to see you're doing well at Ernst & Young, and I wish you continued success there. And lastly, I want to mention that I look forward to chatting with you again in the near future, because I know we're going to be getting together for lunch next week. So yeah, thanks again for coming, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Professor.